first. I'm going to start with introducing Keia Bounds. She is the head costume designer for Survival of the Thickest, accomplished film and TV costume designer whose creative journey began in fashion design. Before entering the entertainment industry, Keia honed her skills working with several iconic fashion designers, including a pivotal role at Ralph Lauren. While at Ralph Lauren, she began styling celebrities and eventually launched her own clothing line, marking the beginning of her transition into costume design and styling full-time. Her first television credit was on the groundbreaking Chappelle Show, which opened the door to a series of notable projects, such as What Not to Wear, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Showtime's Nurse Jackie, which is where she officially began her costume design career. Her impressive portfolio includes projects such as Mysteries of Laura, Nightcap, The Oath, Woke, Blind Spot, Chick Flick, and then now Netflix's hit Survival of the Thickest. Ladies and gentlemen, and y'all can dance for it if you want. Welcome, Keia Bounds. I remember that song. I wish I could sing. All right. Now we have a dynamic person. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. We have been talking about this for such a long time. He has just been amazing. I don't think we know how to get off the phone. But Tyron Mays, celebrity stylist, TV personality, actor, fashion and beauty expert, high authority celebrity stylist. His career spans, and just to remind, I'm only hitting snippets of these bios for each of them, but his career spans 3 decades. Known in the industry as the arbiter of good taste and the super stylist, he was the first lead wardrobe stylist for America's Next Top Model and fashion creative director to Tyra Banks for that show, personally appointed by Tyra herself. His visionary style has graced over 150 magazine covers, including Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Cosmopolitan, Elle, I'm only naming a couple. He has styled thousands of editorial pages for magazines around the world, with an elite client roster that includes Tyra Banks herself, Iman, Heidi Klum, Megan Fox, Mariah Carey, ABC Shark Tank star Damon John. Tyron has styled television shows, album covers, red carpet appearances. He's cultivated some deep relationships with some of the world's top designers and fashion houses like Versace, Louis Vuitton, Dolce & Gabbana, Chanel, Dior. He has styled campaigns for Dark and Lovely, BC Beautiful Colors, Amon Cosmetics, Maybelline, Fubu, Fuji, Max, and many more. His work has appeared on major platforms such as The View, Good Morning America, and The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, all of which I watched. Tyron was invited to appear on HBO Max Originals Gossip Girl, and Just Like That, the new chapter of Sex and the City. He was personally asked to film with his friend Dorinda Medley from the Real Housewives of New York City. A passionate philanthropist and mentor, Tyron actively supports health and education-focused causes like the Archer Foundation, in which he partnered with Macy's, the lead program benefiting the Archers. He also models for the Blue Jacket fashion show for the prevention and awareness of prostate cancer, benefiting Zero Prostate Cancer, sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. He continues to uplift the next generation of creators by mentoring students. Currently, he serves as the fashion editor for the Untitled magazine and style editor for Agenda magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, Please welcome Tyron May! First, I'm going to start with introducing Keia Bounds. She is the head costume designer for Survival of the Thickest, accomplished film and TV costume designer whose creative journey began in fashion design. Before entering the entertainment industry, Keia honed her skills working with several iconic fashion designers, including a pivotal role at Ralph Lauren. While at Ralph Lauren, she began styling celebrities and eventually launched her own clothing line, marking the beginning of her transition into costume design and styling full-time. Her first television credit was on the groundbreaking Chappelle Show, which opened the door to a series of notable projects, such as What Not to Wear, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Showtime's Nurse Jackie, which is where she officially began her costume design career. Her impressive portfolio includes projects such as Mysteries of Laura, Nightcap, The Oath, Woke, Blind Spot, Chick Flick, and then now Netflix's hit Survival of the Thickest. Ladies and gentlemen, and y'all can dance for it if you want, welcome Keia Bounds. All right, now we have a dynamic person. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. We have been talking about this for such a long time. He has just been amazing. I don't think we know how to get off the phone. But Tyron May, celebrity stylist, TV personality, actor, fashion and beauty expert, high authority celebrity stylist. His career spans, and just to remind, I'm only hitting snippets of these bios for each of them, but his career spans 3 decades. Known in the industry as the arbiter of good taste and the super stylist, he was the first lead wardrobe stylist for America's Next Top Model and fashion creative director to Tyra Banks for that show, personally appointed by Tyra herself. His visionary style has graced over 150 magazine covers, including Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Cosmopolitan, Elle, I'm only naming a couple. He has styled thousands of editorial pages for magazines around the world, with an elite client roster that includes Tyra Banks herself, Amon, Heidi Klum, Megan Fox, Mariah Carey, ABC Shark Tank star Damon John. Tyron has styled television shows, album covers, red carpet appearances. He's cultivated some deep relationships with some of the world's top designers and fashion houses like Versace, Louis Vuitton, Dolce & Gabbana, Chanel, Dior. He has styled campaigns for Dark and Lovely, BC Beautiful Colors, Amon Cosmetics, Maybelline, Fubu, Fuji, Max, and many more. His work has appeared on major platforms such as The View, Good Morning America, and The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, all of which I watched. Tyron was invited to appear on HBO Max Originals Gossip Girl and Just Like That, the new chapter of Sex and the City. He was personally asked to film with his friend Dorinda Medley from the Real Housewives of New York City. A passionate philanthropist and mentor, Tyron actively supports health and education-focused causes like the Archer Foundation, in which he partnered with Macy's, the lead program benefiting the Archers. He also models for the Blue Jacket Fashion Show for the prevention and awareness of prostate cancer, benefiting Zero Prostate Cancer, sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. He continues to uplift the next generation of creators by mentoring students. Currently, he serves as the fashion editor for the Untitled magazine and style editor for Agenda magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tyron May! So glad to have both of you. This is going to be a dynamic conversation. Oh, I don't remember how much time I got to build it down. Oh, but that's it. That's it. And that's, I mean, Tyrone and I have been talking about this. She was on a press run. So it just all worked out together. So I'm gonna jump right into this talk and say, yeah, she was on the press run. And I was like, oh my gosh, she responded.
You never know where we're gonna be from day to day, week to week. It can change. So that's why I stay on the phone a lot. So this would be kind of I actually swapped out jobs for to be here, but they were gracious enough to release me and move the job. So
See, he the one with the trouble was a basic time like this. So, in your view, we start with you. What is the ultimate purpose of a stylist?
a stylist is probably one of the most important people on the set because we are, of course, the arbitrators of the case. We have the unique ability to go into fashion throughout the year. We're at fashion shows, we're at all of the department stores, we're at all the boutiques, we're at all the events, and we're usually working 6 months to a year ahead of what we may see. So our job is to really kind of collectively make sense out of nonsense and help layer, put things together in a way that even designers did not imagine to help teach women and some men how to wear next season's fashions. So that is really the big purpose of having a really a stylist that is really adverse at what they're doing because they have their pulse on what's happening in fashion on the inside.
I can agree with what was just said. I want to also put on top of that that as a stylist and a costume designer, we're often creating characters for people, like helping people become who they think they want to be, like you said, like be the woman that you want to date, what you said. Basically be the woman that you want to be in the future, be the person that you're trying to be, really make it come to life for you.
Yeah, and that is a huge part of it is the characterization of the brand that you are trying to dress. And whatever the event or the situation is in that person. So, we do actors and singers and supermodels, and those are all characters that need to be specifically dressed, especially for certain brands and releases and things that they're doing for that project. Recently, I've been working with Crystal Waters. I don't know if you remember her. So she was having a huge comeback in the industry, and I put together this look for her that was super heroic and Afro-futuristic and was kind of this big, bold statement that she was back. She's now releasing an album, and she's we're doing AI music videos and all of this stuff. But it was great to kind of reinvent the visual brand of the singer that we knew.
And what would you say the power, the authority, and the responsibility of
your goals and elaborate, more on your goals and people that you're addressing.
Sure. We are heavily relied on, as you said. We do hold a lot of power. But we're often challenged with our power because people feel like just because they get up and get dressed every morning, that our job is done, right. And so it's a constant battle of, oh, like in my world, I know it's like, oh, we're the least important in some instances where we'll get the last minutes, but we pull out the best stuff, they don't consider how much time and work goes into dressing people, but when it gets on the screen, it's the most powerful one.
It defines. Yes. Dressing the character, dressing the moment, dressing that person defines everything. What we don't know is that, and I've become more vocal as I've gone down in the pipeline of being in this industry. 31 years straight, no chase, no breaks, no part-time jobs. It's all of that. I was dismayed by the fact that photographers, directors, producers, they walk away with the lion's share of the money and all of the credit, and we get overlooked. And it's really without an amazing stylist who is also their own art director, their own costume designer. There were things that I did with Tyra for America's Next Top Model. We did this big photo exhibit called Tyra 15, when we transformed her into all of these different characters. But people didn't know was that, well, I was having things made and we were shifting things around the schedule. Like, oh, no, we can't do Iman because Iman looks like Tyra. So now we need to do Iman from the 1980s. So I had to have a gold-made jumpsuit made almost overnight, so we can create that character. And what people don't understand is that the photographer documents everything, he owns everything, and he walks away with all the credits. And really, the secret weapon of success is styling, wardrobe, costume designers. We create the look, we make it authentic, and we lock it into what you're looking at. So if you're looking at 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, we are the ones that are creating that look.
Yes. Talk about the day in the life. On set, editorial or TV. Start with on set.
Sure. For me, there's no 9 to 5 for me. I work 16 to 20-hour days, right? Like Keia said, come to work no matter what. She wasn't lying. I've missed Leona Lewis's wedding in Italy. Like I've missed so many things. But my daily life is to constantly show up. And they like she also said they want to see my face, right? And so I am the first one in and the last one out. I don't care how long I've been in the business, I'm always there. And so I come in, and it depends on what day you're talking about. If it's, let's say it's the first day of the first episode, I have already broken down the script. I have already picked some looks. I have already rallied my team, and we're ready for our costume meeting. And then, my day is starting with fittings, and it's just so much to kind of cover for that. But I work 16 to 20-hour days.
Yeah, I think I can echo a lot of that as well. And then, especially when you're in high fashion, luxury fashion, working with magazines that are constantly rotating and trying to compete with this beast every month. It starts with research. Hours and hours and hours of research and looking things up, trying to get emails. Just when you make connections and you're 2 years in, that person no longer is there, you have to start from scratch. Reconnecting with these luxury brands so this way you can provide your service to their clients. So it starts with many, many weeks before the actual shoot and then many days after. So we're constantly prepping and performing, and then we have to return. And then we're also creating, because no one taught us how to do this. This is another part of it, is that we had to create a way of how you do this. So your invoice, even creating the invoices. I had to make unique invoices so this way I can bill my clients. And I can create numbers and dates and things that, are the purpose of what I was doing. So we're constantly as entrepreneurs and independent contractors and work for ourselves and hire out. We're part of the level of excellence is not seen as when we're at home in front of the computer in our at home offices and doing so much of the administration part of it. That I want to say I have any respect for any woman that is in the industry under the umbrella of styling or wardrobe or anything, because carrying 200 pounds of clothes from New York to LA and back, it's tough for me, and I'm a pretty substantial dude, so I might have to talk to any woman that wants to be a stylist, because it takes a lot in order to create a look, and a lot of it is not acknowledged. And this is what's wonderful about today, is to get a chance to talk about and document all of the little moving parts that people don't see.
So continue on that. Dig a little more in, because you both talked about the prep. So talk about the prep. What's the day in the life of the prep? Talk about 200 pounds, maybe?
Yeah, that's on the.
What,
that's
what is,
on-
what is, what is that travel like? Carrying these goods.
Well, you have to create relationships with showrooms, with designers. Sometimes you work directly with the designer and not actually the showroom. And you're jockeying for and scheduling the pieces that are desired by many people and wanting to have it all at the same time. And with that, you're trying to secure those things. So you can either secure the scene or secure that page, in which say it's Versace, and you need to have a certain look number 34. You're working on getting that weeks, sometimes months beforehand before you're actually using it. So the prepping of that is that you have to have a really good sense of like projecting like what you may possibly need and how you're going to create that imagery. And so that part of it is something that you have to have put in, that's innate, that no one can tell you that, girl, you gotta start calling them a month before, just in case you may want to have book number 34. So those are some of the moving parts.
You do have to be forward thinking and proactive and be ahead, constantly ahead. So you cannot just think, oh, it's just gonna be available to me. And especially like working on Survival of the Thickest, like and styling Michelle is I really have to be ahead. I have to have outfits ready because I don't know when she's gonna have press, So it's just you just constantly have to be ahead.
And so dig into that. The press joints.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does that entail? And I'm saying that to you, and you can piggyback on that too. But then I want you to go into something else you said as well. Answer that because it's slipping my mind. I got so much running through my head right now. I done forgot about the question. But I know what it was. Thank you, Lord. Talking about those that we had to have this made shiny. Yeah. So talk about the press. Talk about piggy.
In talking about like schlepping stuff around and having all the stuff to lug though, I wanted to touch on the glamour.
Yes, go on. Yes, talk about it. Especially in New York.
Yeah. It's not as, I mean, I don't want to, know anybody's dreams.
No. We're gonna lift them up. We're gonna tell them the truth and then we're gonna give up to the wrong. So they need to understand what role entails. And this is what the space is about. Space for authentic conversation. So, you might be one. I was talking with somebody yesterday and the person hadn't decided what type of career they want. They were interning. I told them that's a very weak move. But she told me, I already know I don't want that role. You might save somebody some time. So go ahead.
So the glamour of it, it's not always glamorous. I mean, you will have your glamorous moments, but it is not always glamorous. I'll give you an example. I was getting Michelle ready for her premiere, our premiere for Survival of the Thickest, but because I'm her stylist and I'm the costume designer for the show, it's our show. It's not just her show, and she knows that. I'm not saying anything that's wrong. But I don't come to work fully dressed and ready to go. I come to work for her because that's what I'm doing. So we had another event to go to follow at Nobu, and I missed the Nobu event because I had to get myself together. So you're not a priority. You're there to do a job, right? And you will lose clients thinking that it's all about you. Or if there's a lot of egos involved. So, you just have to be careful how you move. But I just wanted to touch on the glamorous part of it, because I think that people, and especially with social media, I think that people really have this idea that it's this glamorous job all the time. And we are lugging stuff around. We are working in wardrobe. We are working in costumes. I still carry stuff, even though I have a full team on both shows, because I do BMF as well. And it's like, it's a hard job. But a prep for me, that's what we're talking about, right? The press tour. So press tour for me is me getting Michelle to kind of sit down with me. It's a collaboration, a constant collaboration, because you never just want to put clothes on somebody or tell somebody what they're going to wear. Nobody, they're not models, right? When you're working in fashion and magazines, in that world, you have more creative license. But when it comes to styling personality, they have to feel like they are the person that you're trying to make. So with her, we talk about different designers, and I go out to different designers and I ask them to make things, and I shop a lot into things. I get my assistants to shop a lot into things, and then we have a fitting or two. I have a tailor involved, send it out, have it tailored, comes back, put it back on, make sure it's going to work. And then we shoot it.
So, this is a layered question. So, as far as glamour is concerned, it's unfortunately people are misinformed about your role and what you are doing. A lot of this generation, I've been doing it for 31 years. When I hit in 94, I knew that I was going to have a huge career. As I went down the pipeline, I knew that when I was starting to sing it out as this celebrity stylist, I knew that it was now becoming my job to beautify their entourage. So I would come in done, dressed and ready to go. I may change shoes and took off my sparkly shoes and put on a sneaker. I may have had a makeup kit stuffed down in that bag so I can touch myself up, because I remember when I looked at Iman the first time and we took a picture afterwards and she looked like a goddess and I looked like a goddess. I'm going to make sure that I look like what my job is. Okay. So I started to develop a look, which became part of my brand. The well-dressed stylist, the stylist that can wear the clothes that the moms can wear. I started to be singled out. People that they put on covers, on runways, and asked me to, do certain things on TV shows. With that being said, I still never forgot my job. Okay, I call it understanding how to be the best number two in the room. The number one is your celebrity, Tyra, Michelle, right? So they're the Oprah, but I'm the Gail. You know what I'm saying? And with that, when we walked together, it was powerful. So everybody has their way of approaching. So when we started to work with what Tyra was so fantastic, I think I've been working with this since about 19 on and off for many, many years. And we won't name any numbers now, but we're particular ages. What was wonderful was that we created a way of doing Tyra. Okay, so we had her schedule. Okay, what she's going to do for the weeks, the months ahead. Okay, and with that, I started to address how am I going to do this appearance, this red carpet, this award show, this. So I would dress her according to the events in her life and create a series of garment bags and things like that. So this way, and I would label them, have them printed up with labels, because sometimes I wasn't going to physically dress her. Sometimes I was sending her, I did America's Next Top Model, right? I was on the set with her, but then I was also doing China's Next Top Model and many others. I can't even remember so many of them, where I dressed her and was sent it with her. and then she had someone that was dressing her there. So having a series of very coordinated category garment bags, see-through label with everything there, that became my way of prepping not only her, but also the 14 models that I had on the show all the time. Little secret behind the scenes is that my shows were different than yours. Everybody watched these shows where these models all competed, but what you didn't know was that I never lost any model because we had to trick the public and we had to trick social media. So I always had 14 models. You saw the top 5, but I was still shooting 14. I had to dress 14 people all the time. So we had what was called a B team and an A team. A team was on camera, B team was off camera, and we had to trick the public. So with that, I really needed to work. I had to start to create that whole entire clear garment bag and coordinating all of the shoots and who was going to be wearing what. And so that it was very easy to label, to locate the way it was structured, labeled, and categorized.
Let's see. I wrote Lord knows I don't go on this conversation for a long time. What are the seasons like? And how were you impacted like what's your toughest are there slow seasons?
What do you mean by stuff?
So do you have seasons and it's probably different from like it's the Diaz role or personal stylist versus celebrity because we're dealing with higher level people. So are there seasons that are higher, you have higher business opportunity, or the seasons that you have lower? Because you never get a
Well, okay, so well, no, I don't get.
And what was COVID like too?
Okay, that's a whole other story. Okay, so, and working in fashion, we're always like 6 months, at minimum 6 months ahead. So, while everybody is out and having a wonderful vacation somewhere between June and August, that's my September issue time that we are hustling to shoot and focus on putting together awesome September issues. So I don't get summer vacations like you do. And then September, you would think that I would be able to take a vacation. I don't take a vacation at that point because then we have fashion weeks, which is not just a week, it's like a month and a half. So, you're doing New York, you're doing LA, and then you have a client that wants to send you to Paris and all of the other places, Italy, so fashion weeks can go on and on and on. And we find that work is kind of goes up and down, so it's peaks. And then it's kind of like idles out, but that means you're still working. So I don't the schedule is always kind of different compared to normal schedules. I want to pass it on to Al.
For me, and I'll be quick, because I work more as a costume designer than I do as a stylist as of late, because my shows are back to back. So I may have a month off here and there, but even like Survival and BMF overlapped each other. So I was in Atlanta, I was in New York, I was in Atlanta, I was in New York, having to run 2 teams. And then that month that I get off, I may be styling or I may be taking on another job, just to keep it going. COVID for me was fine because I actually worked all of COVID. I did a show for NBC called Connecting, which was about the pandemic. So I did a whole series online, pinning virtually. Not as good, but teaching people how to tailor. It was a really interesting show because, it really made the actors respect everybody else's job because they had to do our jobs.
So for me, COVID was different. I did not work at all. And I remember on March 14th is my birthday. March 15th, they said we're going to be closed for like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I've got 2 weeks off. I can actually do something for myself. So while everybody was at home and they were, watching the news and, super afraid and waiting for 7 o'clock to come around so you could bang on your pots and pans. I actually opened up my computer to a blank screen and I started working on my part from the book that I've always wanted to work on. And it's pretty much a culmination of my career and how to, because I always get bombarded with people like, how did you do this? How did you do this and do it for so long? So I took my living room, my hallway, and my bedroom, and I went through all of my files and I laid out everything throughout the entire apartment. Pretty crazy, but I was categorized all florals, photo shoots, all denim, all gowns, and avant-garde, blah, blah. And I started to create sections of the book that I wanted to write. And so I started to put together a draft and then I would fill it. And I worked for myself through many, many different processes. Some of it was the dream therapy, which I'm not going to discuss now because you can bring me back for another time and I can tell you about how to channel that kind of stuff. But I am now 120,000 words in. I am wrapping it up. I've been working on the book since COVID, and I'm hoping to have it maybe on the stands maybe next year. We'll see what happens. See what else I'm looking for publishers.
We'll start with you on that. You were briefly touching on, AI.
Yes.
What do people need to think about in considering a career as a stylist with AI coming? Like here.
I have a love and hate affair with AI. I think it's the most brilliant and most genius thing that's ever happened. I'm someone who believes in aliens and can't wait for one to land and just sit down and talk with us and give us all the secrets of the universe. But the threat to AI is that it is potentially going to replace all of us, the human experience. So unfortunately, we have companies like H&M, and I'm sure there are others that are working under the radar that are they're making deals and signing contracts for models to license their likeness. They are putting clothing on that actually don't exist, sketches, and makeup and hair has all been kind of created into a computer formula. And these computer geeks are really kind of like stealing the wonderful creative careers that we all have invested so much time in. And the sad thing about AI is that we only will get a rehashed version of what we saw before. So all of the little creative things that we see with like makeup, when they decided to do bold, unblended eyes, mermaid lash treatments, and all of these other things that come from the genius of the artist yourself that knows how to take two complete concepts and say, make this one full look for my client and her size. We're going to lose that. And one of the people that I actually had, the reason why we had this conversation is because when we talked about this, Carl and I, is that I confronted the person that I don't know if you know, there was an African model that was struck in gorgeous, beautiful baby doll hair and little short, soft, curly hair. And she had a big, oversized white collar. And this model had been taking all of the jobs from Black women in the industry. And she's done campaigns, she's been on covers. But what you don't know is that that computer geek took my best friend, Maria Borges, who is a supermodel, and he's been collecting images of her. And that big oversized white collar was my friend Maria Borges on the cover of Vogue Portrait. And he took that and he's trying to create this thing. And then he gets to pocket all of the money. So that money gets not only pulled out of fashion, it gets pulled out of the Black community. And that service doesn't get filled by a beautiful Black model, a beautiful Black stylist, makeup artists, hairdressers, photographers. It's all gone.
Yeah.
So I like you. I have a love hate with it. I sometimes do think it's brilliant. But I ran into someone who works at Netflix, and she let me know that she was training AI to do her job. She didn't work in the capacity that we work in. And I asked her, I said, how in jeopardy is my job? She said, you're not in jeopardy yet, right? Just because, yes, just because it takes a lot more than just putting clothes on an image or a model to create the characters that need to be created. Like, people want to watch something and believe what they're watching, connect with what they're watching. And so hopefully we're not affected by it as much.
Well, I have one more, and Carla knows this because we had the conversation. I was at a party a few weeks ago and I was being pushed to meet this photographer. And it was like, no, I didn't even get a chance to pick up my drink yet. It was like, no, you gotta come and meet this photographer and you gotta talk to this photographer. So I'm like, okay, I'm here. What do you want to talk about? Well, he wants to work with me. And I said, okay, this is great, because you're always looking for someone to, you're looking for a job, And the photographer, he is a digital AI photographer. So he wanted me to come in and style mannequins. And he would scan them in 360 in the round and then put these fictitious supermodel-y kind of images together. And I kind of was like, I'm riding the fence because I'm like, yeah, this will be some kind of cool. But then I'm like, but am I aiding to the destruction, the mutual destruction of all of our careers? Writers are going to do this already this journey. They have AI that's writing brilliant things, scripts, pieces, and am I going to help aid by bringing the special thing that we do as studies, how we kind of mix, match, and do creative things to kind of twist and throw that kind of thing off, the popping color mixing like this woman back here, that's outstanding, that understands color. Do we keep pumping this into the computer? In which it now starts to anticipate and act and think and copy us. So I don't know. And I don't like the fact that they want to scan. That was another thing that I was also afforded opportunities to act during COVID. I got a call. They were just like, hey, we knew you were on this TV show. You want to come and do, some acting. Everybody left. Everyone left New York. And they were like, we need some attractive men. What they said was, we need stylish black men for party scenes. Can you come and do it? I said, oh, okay, stylish black man, I can do that. So next thing you know, 7 days later, I was doing it just like that. Okay, so now I'm in that whole thing where I'm in the acting world, and I came in through background or extra or whatever it is. But because the way I stress and the way I look, I was bumped up to feature. So it's kind of where you get you and wavering also. It's a waiver, so it's to work with the actual, number one to number two. Okay. With that, I was enjoying it, but now I'm kind of nervous because they're talking about scanning us and being able to use us in background. And I've selected my brands of who I wanted to work for because I'm not an actor. I act well, but I didn't go out there and to put myself into a situation where then I have no control of what TV shows and what movies I'm in. I did just like that. I did Gossip Girl. Those were brands that I select. I said yes to. You know what I mean? So if I give my license myself away for $250 in gratuity, I can be in a porn movie. You know what I mean? The background and the party scene. So you want to make sure you control your likeness. So I'm not happy with that.
So let's dig in. I got two questions off of that. Let's dig into that indie stuff. In this profession, what are the things that people need to be aware of? What skills or knowledge that they need to have legally? Otherwise, other things that they need to think about stepping into the role with legal skills. was contract, knowing how to read the contract, knowing how to negotiate. We'll talk money later, we're not talking about your money, because people want to know
Yeah.
in general. But what are some of those things that they need to know?
So for me, I'm protected by unions, right? So I started off in the wardrobe union, which was 764, where I worked on set, and you basically manage what the costume designer wants to show up on screen. But now I'm in two other unions, which is 829 and 892, which are the costume design unions. And those unions, contractually like keep our numbers, our rates and everything to a certain, you can make, I think the rate now for wardrobe is like $60 an hour. Yeah. And sometimes wardrobe and assistant costume designers actually make more than the costume designer does because they work on an hourly rate. So in terms of legalities, like I don't know that part because the union kind of like keeps us in our insurance.
Well, legally, that kind of stuff is definitely my expertise because I've had to sign 50, 60-page contracts that you have to read. In particular, America's Next Top Model, the contract was this big, I still have it. And I kept it because, you want to make sure that you're not in reach, even though it is not premiering. It's still airing in many different places and it's been packaged and be sold to like Netflix and things like that. So there are a lot of stipulations within those contracts that you can't do. And so I had to be aware, we had to sit down with my lawyers and go through with a fine tooth comb page by page, because you don't want to post something and now be in breach of contract and now they want to sue you for $1 million, So when you are in a position as a stylist that is an independent contractor, and it's not working with the union, you do have to have the ability to read with comprehension for yourself. So this way, when you are actually sitting down with a lawyer, you can talk the same kind of language. Now, I have a degree in political science and a minor in English. Before I was stolen, swept away beautifully, happily to, the fashion island. But I was pretty much a pretty sharp guy. So I took all of those other skills that were not fashion related. The first thing I did was I threw myself into FIT, the continuing education program, so I could learn more and more and more and more about fashion. And not just about what I think is fierce and what I think is pretty and this what I think is cute. I wanted to know the history of what I'm looking at, how come women dress a certain way and how it changed decade after decade. So all of the skills that I amassed, I never lost them. I continue to use them with my English as a second major. That helped me with writing because a lot of times, I don't know about when you're doing fashion layouts, you have to a lot of times provide copy. And when I was doing America's Next Top Model, I had to write the segment. What people didn't know, and even I got a little bit too. So I'm gonna tell this. You got the camera running. I don't want to be telling too much. So this is a real big nugget. Well, after I signed my contract to be the stylist for America's Next Top Model, which was a role that was not what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to have a bigger role, but that's a whole other story. But we're staying here, plants and seeds. Once I signed that contract, they flipped the script on me. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have called that contract to be updated. And I should have taken an associate producer credit because I was earmarked to write my segments. So every time you saw these photo shoots, I was conceptualizing them and I was writing them, creating mood boards, and then I would send those in or sit with the producers. We would it's funny because the way the show works that I'm Tyra Stylist, I'm working with her, but then you work in pockets. So when you're doing this part, you're not working with her, you're working with the producer. She's like, this is when you work with them. When you work with me, so you do things in pockets. So, I would have to present photo shoots, concepts, and then it would go to her, and then she would sign off on certain photo shoots, and that's how it made it on the air. So if I didn't have those skills to write, articulate, this is the thing that I want to impress on the Black community and people of color, is that you gotta get that thought that's in your head out and to articulate it in a way that which people that got the money, the millions of dollars, will execute based off of your idea. But if you're like, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? You smell me? Fill like the blanks. But you know what I'm saying? You know, you have to be able to take your time, stay in your thoughts, write it. Tyra used to say this. Write those notes live. Like when she would talk to her assistant, she's like, okay, I want to do this, we should do this, we should do that. And then she looked over and she said, but you're gonna remember this? She said, oh yeah, I'm gonna remember. She said, no. With me, you take those notes live. You know, and that was really important because once she's channeling and that channel cuts off, don't tell me you didn't remember. You know, your job is to document everything. So documentation, having the ability to articulate the thoughts, writing them down, aid imagery, mood boards, and having references in order to do that. You can say, oh yeah, back in 1960s, they did this, and blah, 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 they did that. So when I created looks for Tyra, you know, I think I did something like 40 looks on the show, you know, which was a lot of looks for one season. I think I did something like 400, 500 bucks when I was done. I had to bring in references, and that's how you got a chance to see Tyra in the turban. Remember the turban era? So I put her in the turbans and the gowns and all of that. She was like, "Oh my God, I didn't think." So I thought I was gonna look like my grandmother with this turban on. And I said, "Well, your grandmother didn't have that popping blonde hair. It's gonna look fierce and fresh, and it's modern with reaching back." And then we're bringing something fresh and new. So having references, being able to use all of your skills, your entire brain, that makes you invaluable. Invaluable. That's why I had such success. It's because I positioned myself to be invaluable on the set. When I was, I'm just running, but I'm gonna shut up real quick. When I hit, the reason why I was able to stay in the door once they walked me in is because I can speak pretty freely, right? Can I try some of it? Go ahead. I can, okay, so I know I was disadvantaged. I know I was Black. I know I was from Queens. I knew I didn't have a cool accent. So I mind fucked them. I made sure that these old white ladies that had the position to change my life, that they understood I knew fashion. So I would talk out loud and say, oh, the pen tucking of this dress is exquisite and the horsehair lining. I make sure I stood everything that was about that outfit. I articulated it to them. And when they would ask me, oh, do you speak another language? I said, oh, yes, I speak English really well, and I speak fashion. When I first, in 1994, I was on the Mika magazine, they said, oh, what did you wear? I said, oh, I bought this wonderful outfit from Romeo Giggling. And they said, oh, no, that's not on. It's not Romeo Giggling, it's Romeo Shoes. And I said, oh, I'm going to help this movie. So I sat down and learned how to say, she won't shoot and not she can't. You can't go up in there and be like Gavinci. Yeah, give me that Gavinci, that's $10,000. So I made sure that I was invaluable on the set, but I let them know that who I was, what I was doing, and that I was fully present. So they understood that it was worth the paycheck. It was worth being bought in. Especially during the 90s when they were changing the industry and we were kind of not really seeing. It was very few of us. It was like only Andre Leontali and maybe 3 or 4 others. Me and June Ambrose and a couple of others. You know, that was it. Okay, kind of talk fast.
We get on the phone like this, so
We're on the phone all the time and we talk like this. It's like, oh my God.
and it was fun. Keia,
Yeah.
so we've got some little women at the end. Got several questions here. So Keia, so I might take a few minutes. Okay. So talking about fashion etiquette and how people should approach people to get opportunities. Talk about that a little. What should they do and what would be found and what would get the door open and what would slam the door in their face?
So I'm known in the industry as the professional. I'm constantly called the professional. I encounter uh conflict all the time, but I always handle it with confidence and a smile and know how to pivot. And so when people are looking to speak to somebody like me and or any other professional, I would think, I would just say you should walk up to somebody, but just always respect their space. Right. I've had people slide in my DMs. I've actually had somebody, my most recent assistant actually came to an event that I was doing at Neiman Marcus. A friend of mine teaches etiquette classes and asked me to do the wardrobe portion, the styling portion of her event. And so I said yes. And then someone came to see me at the event and she sat next to me. I happened to be sitting down and she just happened to strike up a conversation. She came in a fun outfit. I'm not one of those stylists or costume designers that's like, I want to see, don't come in all black. I don't want to see you in all black. I want to see you wear your color. I want to see you shine. I want to see what your personality is through your clothes. She came with this fabulous hat on and this cute outfit. And she sat there and she talked to me and explained to me why she came. And she ended up being my assistant in like 2 weeks later. So you just never know. I think, take your chance.
I think with me, it's always gonna be number one, your approach. Look, you're asking for me to change your life, for me to give you insight and some of the secrets of success. And just being in my presence, being in Keia's presence, you get a chance to experience our way of doing what we do. Okay, some of this stuff is we can't even articulate. It's just a way. Okay, and it can be experienced. I think that when the person that approaches me, there's certain triggers that hit me that I'm like, this is a problem or potential problem. I call it PTS, potential trouble source. Okay. So if my PTS button is starting to flash, I'm like, okay. Then I start to assess whether or not this person is worth conversation. Like, do I get in there and tweak them a little bit? Is it gonna be worth it? Usually, if the person steps up and they don't have to be perfect, but I feel like there is something there, then I will consider it. And sometimes I do invite them to come to the set. Okay. What is my trigger? I love fashion. The moment I hear that sentence, I'm like, because I don't love fashion. I'm good. I want to know that the person that's going to assist me is going to not only just walk in my path, but do the things that I did. I not only took myself, but went into it felt like I was going to be in school forever, studying in the continuing education at FIT. I also never stopped studying myself. Okay, so I have black and white notebooks, and as I started working somewhere in the early 90s, somewhere around 94, 95, I was working with very top magazines, and I started to notice that they liked particular trends and particular women. Okay, so in my black and white notebook, now I'm good for having a black and white notebook down in the bag. Okay, and I would take these little notes to see. I needed to, and I'm just going to be really honest. I'm going to take the nice gloves. So I needed to know what these white folks liked, so I can package and sell them back what they like. And with that, I was able to incorporate and put a little flavor in there too. But you got to understand what they liked. So I would take notation on all of the wonderful women that they spoke about. emulate the Audrey Hepburns and the Marilyn Monroes and and just go down the list of and why. I would make notations of why. Why does this woman stand out in history? Most of the time they were actors, some of them were models, some of them were activists. Why did they stand out? And so I started to create these profiles. So I understood all of the important 25 women that were on film. I understood also all of the important fashion moments from the 1800s to today. And I would map out and make these notes that I use in my upcoming book. So having someone that is an assistant, they have to come to the table and they have to be aware and understanding that it's more than just, oh, it's a cute outfit and I think it's fierce, and I have a cell phone, I have a handbag and a whole lot of attitude. If you don't know the who, what, where, when, why, how, if you don't understand Madonna, the purpose of Madonna, they think she's a singer. She's not a singer. She doesn't sing that well. What she was a performing, singing activist that picked up the mantle of women's lib and carried it through music. So all of these peekaboo, bra, slashes, underwear as outerwear that you are all enjoying today is because of that moment in fashion, and that has to be something that we acknowledge so that you can do your job. So those are the things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that is not just the fashion. Oh, and the ones that I hate is that because they won't be a star. I earned my stripes. I built my name. I built my brand, and I am what I am. Some of it was a happenstance because we were behind the scenes people. We were never to be brought into the front. We were never to have more attention than sometimes the celebrity we uncovers and
Yes.
the industry got a little bored of looking at just formulated actors and stupid models that that didn't know the day, what time of the day it was, and they found that when they wanted to bring fashion television, they were like, oh, we got this new group of people we never looked at. The behind the scenes, these gorgeous women, these hot guys that they got popping personalities. They're crying because the gown is not here, and they're making all of this thing more interesting. So the cameras got turned on us. So with that being said, I'm looking for somebody that if they want to be an assistant, they're going to come to the set, they're going to be dressed appropriately, they're going to understand that this is my job and not your job. You're coming in here to learn, to assist, and you are not going to be paid because you haven't earned the right to get a check yet. So everybody want a check, everybody want to be, and then you got to be earlier than me. Okay, if we have a 9 a.m. and I'm going to show up at 8:45, I need you to be there 8:30 to help me come out the car. So there's a lot that goes into being an assistant. And I found a lot of assistants fall on their face. And I tell them and warn them so this way you understand the pitfalls. And then my work is my work. But if you Google Tyra Banks, West East Magazine, or this cover, that cover, you see my assistants from back then stole all my work and put it on their websites. These are things that people, stylists don't talk. I'm very bold, and that person that stole all my work, she's got 2 Emmy nominations for America's Got Talent. She got my job. So the assistant thing, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and make it sound like, oh, it's all great and all money rabbits and all of that. It's very, very difficult to find a good assistant. The last person that reached out to me a week and a half ago slid into my DM on that LinkedIn. It was like, oh, and I love your work and blah, blah, blah. And I would love to assist you and saying all the right things. And here's my Instagram, and please take a look at my work, and here's my number. I go to the Instagram, and I'm like, you're not following me? So I sent him back a little message and said, start over. Let me just say that's like me going to Anna Winter and said, you ever bought balls before? No, I ain't bought balls, but I won't work here.
All right, so I would love to continue this conversation, but with timing, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna ask the questions that we have. Then what I will do is ask each of you to share like, food for thought, wrap up thoughts, or like highlight moments for you, and the encouragement for them. Thank you for sharing, being authentic, because they need to know the truth. That's why we're here, especially being a person of color. That's why we have this conversation. How do you feel about, how do you feel about influencers calling themselves stylists? I felt that one.
That is a really hard one. And it may be for me, if you look on my Instagram, I don't even call myself a stylist. And it's because I feel like more validated in being a costume designer because I don't feel like it's something that people feel like they could just take away. Like we work so hard to get where we are. And it's not just about putting on clothes. It's not just about telling people to go buy this, go do this. It's about it's
You want to tag team? Want to tag team? Okay. All right. So the influencer thing, I'm not impressed. Okay? The real original influencers are sitting here at these chairs. Okay. Digital fake followers, bots, Facetune, as you can see, I look like in my pictures. None of what we do is fake. The influencer thing is gonna be like the .com industry. Okay, it's going to implode. Okay, most of the time it's because they don't have the level of influence that they claim they have. Now, how you got a girl sitting up in her bathroom doing her makeup, doing it all of a sudden, voila, look how magical I made myself. She got 3 million followers and I got 30,000. And I've been on big TV shows that aired around the world because it's all fake. Okay. So this influencer thing is a construct. I don't know if you noticed, all of your social medias, including pretty much Instagram, have all stalled in followers. It's because they don't want you to actually be as awesome and have the power of influencer. They want you to turn that money over to them and for you to pay for pushing into other people's feeds. So this whole thing is a construct and it's really been fed by, unfortunately, Kim Kardashian, who was one of the greatest of them all. But she was the one that kind of created this thing, and then everybody else jumped on the bandwagon. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be that too. You know, she lucked out and she did it. She did it the best. But I don't like the influencer thing. Okay, I don't think that they're influencing anybody except for themselves. I think that they have very little power because if we strip away all of those bots and all those fake numbers, it's going nowhere. And what's happening now is that companies are reaching out to what they call micro influencers, the ones that have the real numbers, like me, 30,000 followers. I'm very happy. They're all mine. And I love them all. But they're finding out that we're more valuable because we have real human beings behind the numbers. So I don't really think that influencers are that influential.
I'm gonna try to wrap in 10 minutes so people can have time to speak to each of them. So the jump, I think that question was kind of changed, or addressed. This is a hot one. We asked this one first, then I'll come back to that. How and where do you find inspiration?
So I've been doing this for a long time. So fashion, if I'm still correct, repeats itself every 20 years, right? If not sooner, it's been speeding up, right? And so, my innate sense of style says, I'm gonna tap into what I already know, right? I'm gonna look at what my mom's wearing, what my grandma's wearing, what has worn, or, I'm going back always. And sometimes it's just natural, like I just know what's coming up. So as far as inspiration, I'm always just tapping into what, we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're just making it look better. And so that's how I get my tapping in.
Yes, for me, I know that inspiration has come from not, look, I'm well studied, so I got that part down. All right. So once you kind of know all of the fashion trends, and you kind of like, oh, they're saying that again. Okay, yeah. How many years is this? How many times they're gonna say white is fresh and new, or this slash is edgy. So I actually find inspiration in the streets. I look at people. I love people watching. I love those people, even on Instagram, that have like the blue hair and the green outfit and combat boots and some pearls and all that. That individuality, because that right there is what's going to bring fashion forward. And because it needs to come out of the construct and the structure of what happened in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Really fashion. I think Diana Breland said it best back in the days when she was the editor at Vogue. She wanted to be a dancer and she used to hang out in Harlem and Coffee Club. And she said, fashion comes to the Black community because she understood that when she pulled herself out of the beige white community, that she saw color. She saw turbans. She saw things that they translated and turned that into, caftans. That they had wraps and they put their statement jewelry on top of it without having the people that break the rules. You can't move fashion forward. So I'm always looking for rule breakers down in the West Village or the East Village. I'm always looking for somebody up in Harlem, that black girl that got all that swag and that attitude. I'm always like, okay, girl, I'll point at them and let them. And what you don't know, to go back to the Tyra days with the turban, was that this girl walked past me in the street. And she had on this cute blouse, skinny jeans, fierce shoes, a nice bag, and this turban. And I was like, wait, hold on. And I think she was like white. She was white or Middle Easterny or something like that. Greek or something. And so I ran out there and I said, do you mind if I take a picture of you? Because I'm Tyra's stylist. And this look right here, I need a visual because I need something that I'm more than just me talking or showing some old pictures of Sophia Loren or, Nina Simone and a head wrap. And she was like, sure, no problem. I wish that I got that girl's phone number and I wish I got that girl's email, but I posted it on all the social medias back then. And I'm still looking for that girl. I would hope that one day.
You gotta put it on
Almost 10
TikTok.
years now. Yeah, I'm gonna post it again now that we're talking about it because she inspired me and I hit a home run because you're always looking for the next home run with your client, especially when you're working with them for so many years. It's like, okay, what is Keia? What makes me want to keep working with this? Because I keep bringing that fresh new point of view and getting that home run. So that girl that walked past me with the turban, I don't know where you are, but I'm still looking for you. Because then I sent her to the Grammys with a turban on her head, and we did a whole entire season of America's Next Top Model. The judging look, she had a turban on.
Okay, the last 5 minutes. I know I missed 2 questions. I apologize, but I wanted to hit it. I'm glad I asked that one. But this is a precedent. And then we'll just wrap up here. And then what we will do is, Sia, Debbie, Foundation, we'll tell our parents, the rest, and you into the water. Can you talk about racial disparities that are prevalent today and were prevalent en route to becoming a stylist? I feel we hear a lot about fashion is very white or one color. How is your presence disrupting that? Okay, can you talk about racial disparities that are prevalent today and were prevalent in your route to becoming a stylist? I feel we hear a lot about fashion but it is very white or one color. How is your presence disrupting them?
So coming up in an industry where, I mean, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, but I sort of got used to being the only black face in the room. And so when I had to go and work for these companies like Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger, and then moving into the television space, I was sort of used to being the only black voice. And so coming up in the industry was challenging, because I had to like prove over white people that I was the one for the job. I even moving into the costume design space, I had people tell me, "Oh, you can't be a costume designer unless you go to Yale." I was like, but I'm a fashion designer. I came up in the fashion design space and I was sort of moving backwards, in my mind at that time, by wanting to be a stylist instead of moving forward in the design space. So I think that today, just like you just said about how the black voice, the black style, black fashion is what pushes fashion. I think that now, like you said, I'm checking boxes. And it's important to have me there. And I'm being told this can't happen without you. And so I'm leaning into that. And also pulling in more people that look like me. Yep.
Um, just that question. It's a little tricky with your following behind, because I want to respond to her and be like, girl, it's not. It was on racial disparity.
Can you talk about racial disparities that are prevalent today and were prevalent in your route to becoming a stylist?
Okay, I'm going to try to talk really quickly. It There's racial disparity everywhere in the United States of America. So you just got to get over, better understand that's going to be an undertaking that you're going to have to overcome. Okay. When I got into the business, there was lots of layers of that kind of stuff. Yes, of course, it's racial disparity, but I don't want to sit here and blame or attack white people because white people made my career. They greenlit my career. Y'all, I don't think you really understand. Black folks didn't help me. It was white people, and I got pulled into the luxury, high end, top level of fashion. Oh, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Marie Claire, Cosmo got covers from all of those magazines, and it was white people that were like he's capable of. Okay, with that, I understood that I had a responsibility to always not only meet the expectation but exceed the expectation. So the racial disparity thing, it's there, but I the what makes it complicated is that fashion, especially luxury, high end, especially what you do, is more about the cream rising to the top. The best get an opportunity. And I found that they recognized the fact that I was the best at what I do. And that overrode the color aspect of it. Like, oh, okay, it's a black guy coming with jeans, t-shirt coming in here, gonna tell us about fashion. That's why I told you I mind F them to let them know when I got in the door that I understood fashion and I deserved the opportunity. But I do know that I was very rare in the industry that I was afforded opportunities a lot of people did not achieve. So the racial thing is tricky. With that being said, I've been attacked. I've had people make me walk the back of the staircase because they said that I was lying. You're not coming in to little clothes for that top magazine. You just want to get in a good elevator. And I'm not going to name names, okay? But when I got to that top floor, and they made me walk when I showed up, I was sweating and I was late. When I told the person, they said, "Oh no." That white woman took me by my hand. We got back in the elevator. We went down to that first floor, that lobby, and she chewed up that entire step and said, "Anybody that comes to this company with an appointment, I don't care what he looks like, he is to be allowed to take the elevator, the good one, not the one in the back and not the stairs, you know? So it's a real complicated, it's very easy to be like, yeah, child, they all racist against me. Oh, yeah, they black people, they hold the black man down. It was it was a shift that was happening that's somewhere probably started before me, but somewhere in the 90s, things started shifting in the fashion industry where they were bringing in, there were more models of color, more, we were changing the body types, okay? They weren't all just thin. We now have curvy girls. We gave the disability, the people that have disabilities, they got an opportunity to walk the runways. And the editors now, we have several Black editors that are at the top that are working at Elle Magazine, that are working at all of these top publications. So we've been fighting a good fight, but I like to know, to be said, that when I leave here, that I fought with them. Okay, so when I was there, I didn't fight them, but what I did was I constantly stayed in their ear, suggested. And it was my job as to go back to the power of the stylist. Okay. We are doing more for the fashion industry, the magazines, the designers, and the woman than you know. Because we decide that that dress, that shoe, that jewelry, that hat is what we think is hot and deserves to be on this page or on that actor on this scene right here. And we're changing the profile of the designer, we're changing their lives, we're changing the look of the client that we're working with. So with that opportunity going through all of the fire of racism and all of that, the beautiful thing was that we were able to position ourselves where we were in a place of power. Now we are sitting here and we're looking for the recognition for people to actually understand what exactly we are doing.
Ladies and gentlemen,